What is up, NFL fans? It is your boy, Kevin Phillip Fox, and I'm here with the Legit Football NFL podcast. We are back, and today, very lucky for you all, happens to be kind of a slow week in the news cycle. We'll find some stuff to talk about, as always. But that being said, we do have a little bit of an extra flair to today's show. We're going to be talking fantasy football. That's right. This is the fantasy football buy and sell episode of the Legit Football NFL podcast. And I am not doing this alone. Ladies and gentlemen, my man from down under, Mr. Adrian Revito. Adrian, what's popping?
What is going on? What's popping? That's a very good question. Not a whole lot. It's at 7:30 in the morning here. It's already June. That's the dog days of football.
Oh, that's right. It's June for you. Still May over here.
You know what is, and I tend to find something about your physical appearance or your background to talk about every single show. I feel like maybe it's a bit obsessive on my behalf.
I'm here for it.
Noticed the playoff hat while you were on the big screen. I noticed is that a Redbone album cover?
Oh, yeah. Childish Gambino.
Yeah, very good album.
One of my favorites.
So I guess I just want to talk about you. You know, I came in to say what's going on with me, and I'm talking about you.
I'm always here for it, brother. You know, and I think maybe the producer of the show, Anthony Weiner, who's back for another episode today, we love to see it. He might have spoiled something here, but it appears that there's an empty space in this corner here, and I can't help but think we might have the personnel to fill it today with maybe one of the staples of legit football. I'm talking about NFL Stats, Jimmy Ray himself, the Himburglar. What's poppin'?
Yes, sir, man. Come on.
That felt personal. You got walk-in music. I didn't. That felt.
Yeah,
felt
I noticed that as well. I was a little bit disappointed.
You're crying
for you, Adrian. I know. I'm good without it. You know, I don't need it.
You have to be gone for a certain amount of time before you get intro music.
That's
so if I leave, yeah, okay, all right, got it.
That's why I do it.
You must take a month with no Adrian.
Yeah, I'll see you guys in like July after today.
Yeah.
Week 1, September.
Yeah. Right.
Let's just address the elephant in the room here. My favorite basketball team and Jimmy's favorite basketball team are in a dogfight. Jimmy, I still love you. I just want to publicly state that. Despite my absolute hate for your basketball team, I still love you. And I hate Tyrese.
I hate Jalen Brunson, man. So
why? He's so lovable.
Is he? Tyrese is too.
No, Tyrese is.
See that we could just do this all day.
He's a schmuck.
I can actually weigh in on this, right?
Please.
As someone who has recently been trying to get into basketball, I don't have skin in the game. I haven't even picked a team yet. But I've been watching the Knicks Pacers, and obviously I know there's skin in the game on both your ends. I will say that Halliburton seems like a more likable person. I'm just going to say
crazy. I love that.
But you know what? Because there's been memes of him. He when he talks, like Jalen Brunson didn't. I don't know. Jalen Brunson wasn't even looking at the screen or the report. He was sort of looking away. I don't know.
Brunson's more bashful. He's not. He doesn't do it for performance, bro. He's a second-round pick. He's a second-round pick who was always underrated his whole career. And Halliburton's a front runner, bro. He does the Reggie Miller choke sign. He does the fraud.
Hey, when the team chokes, you got to do that sign, man. The team
that is out.
Ladies and gentlemen,
us to move the hell on.
We really do have the best producer in the game, Mr. Anthony Weiner. So without further ado, we will be getting into our legit headlines. And that's not; those are on the document. Is that correct? Am I assuming that correctly?
You are assuming that correctly.
All right. If somebody else wants to take the lead on this one while I pull up that document here, please feel free to let that
look, I can tell you the first one, and this is going to be something you're going to be personally passionate about, is that the Bills are favored to win every game in 2025. So we can go through the subtext of that, but this feels like an easy one to talk about. Yeah.
I got you. I pulled it up. So without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, the Buffalo Bills are favored to win every game in 2025. Per ESPN Bet Sportsbook, something that's only happened 23 times since 1978. Their closest projected matchups are Week 1 versus the Ravens. They are 1.5-point favorites. Week 9 at the Chiefs. They are 2.5-point favorites. And Week 17 versus the Eagles, they are 1.5-point favorites. Reigning Super Bowl champion Eagles, by the way. Since the schedule drop, Buffalo has received the most Super Bowl bets. ESPN's Alena Getzenberg highlights tight end Dalton Kincaid and rookie Keon Coleman as key breakout candidates to help fulfill those lofty expectations. Fellas, what do we think about that? I got my thoughts, but I'll reserve them.
Not a fun team to bet on if they're the favorites, right?
That's true.
We can talk
I mean,
about
it's just odds based.
Yeah, but you know what? The classic Kevin Phillip Fox emotional hedge. You bet the team you want to lose, and that way you win every time.
Adrian
That's
gets
the,
me.
yeah, that's the way to do it. This doesn't. I mean, look,
lose, though.
I was gonna say this doesn't shock me, but it kind of does. It's still every single team. You're still playing the Super Bowl champs versus Super Bowl runner-ups. You're still playing the Ravens. Josh Allen, man, coming off an MVP. What are you gonna do? Like, what they won 13 last year. They had a similar strength of schedule. Their 5th easiest this year. That was 6th easiest last year. So, I mean, I don't know. Look, I don't like the. This is the least analysis ever. I don't like the voodoo it puts out there. I feel like that might be your vibe as well, Kev. But yeah, it doesn't. Good for them. Like the thing that scares me is the Bills have been probably 5 years of like Super Bowl, not even hopefuls. That's the wrong word. Just like Super Bowl real strong contenders. And I feel like they don't get upset at me, but they're getting close to that point where like I don't want the window's not shut yet. Of course, it's not shut, but it's just inching. Like there's a bit of wind coming from the outside, and it's just, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I think inching is a great term for it. Because you hear every offseason, really true, like unironically, not doing it. You hear every offseason that the window is closed. It's kind of one of the most tired offseason talking points I feel for just lazy NFL narrative street. I just think, oh, who's the team that is, let's be real here, perennial playoff disappointments. So you're just going to continue to bang that drum, kind of low hanging fruit, kind of Phillip Rivers, early Peyton Manning, early Aaron Rodgers. The truth is you're that until you aren't. And that's just what it is. And I can accept that from a perspective of hearing the narratives, because, you can have narratives and they can be stupid, lazy narratives, but that doesn't stop them from happening. Everybody and their mom was like, the narrative of the draft shouldn't be Shedeur Sanders' fall. That's, whatever. But then they're the ones who are saying that. So it's almost like it's kind of the classic media self-perpetuating catch-22. So I'll address you saying that it's inching shut by saying, Adrian, every second that Josh Allen is not as young as he was 5 seconds ago is another 1/100th of an inch. And at some point, because he's not going to play until he's 50, maybe till he's 40, he's kind of a crazy competitor. I know he takes a lot of hits, but he's got a crazy competitive spirit. That I until he retires, I don't think that the window is even.
When did Josh Allen come to the Bills?
2018.
2018. Okay, so we've been 7 years. I would argue that the last 2 years have been probably some of his best. I feel like he plays smarter football than he did even after his breakout.
I completely agree.
Yeah, so and I agree. Like the thing with Rodgers is a good comparison. He got lucky and won a Super Bowl early, but after that it was always like perpetually. I was going to win another one. He's going to win another one. And that's the thing, man. It's hard to win a Super Bowl, and the window can shut. That's not impossible. So anyway, this headline's not about the Super Bowl window for the Bills. They're obviously in the mix this year, as the odds would suggest. I worry. I don't like the juju, and the expectations can sometimes be, we've seen every year we see expectations kill a team, and I don't want that to be the Bills, because I love you, man, and I already took a shot at you at your boy Brunson.
That's okay. I need Jimmy's thoughts, before we move on. Jimmy,
I was just gonna say every team's gonna be bringing their all for the Bills like they usually do, right? Mm-hmm. And if the Bills are favored, then we'll see some upsets for sure. But we'll see. I'm kind of surprised by the Eagles being favored over the Eagles.
I think they got some of their biggest draws at home. I think they got the Eagles and the Chiefs at home. They think have a lot to do, or maybe they got the Eagles and the Ravens at home. And they beat the Chiefs, and they beat the Chiefs in the regular season every year.
That's a 3-point swing, so that makes sense.
4 straight years. So, and if you think about it being a 3-point swing, it's kind of a 6-point swing because you don't get the 3-point spike.
Yeah, they get the 3 points.
So it's kind of a 6-point swing
because it wouldn't be even if it was in Philly. It would be probably a few points
Philly,
in
Philly,
for Philly.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm pretty optimistic about the season. I do think the Bills and Josh Allen and Sean McDermott and that defense, I think the identity of the team thrives more in the underdog role. I think that team thrives more when they are counted out. We recall the last couple of years, the few seasons when they were heavy favorites. They got sent home early by Cincinnati in the divisional round. The 2 years where they went the furthest in their recent history would be the season where they played the Bengals in the divisional and the season where they played the Chiefs. But they went to the AFC Championship in 2020 when nobody even thought they had a chance, and they went to the AFC Championship last year when everybody thought they took a monumental step back. Adrian had them losing the division, so just
You kept
kind
that
of
receipt, did you?
Good job, Adrian.
kind of just the way the cookie
Josh
crumbles.
Allen MVP.
Yeah. Josh Allen, Adrian, or Jimmy, the best analysis you've ever given on the show.
That was a slam dunk. That was never a
How
doubt.
does he win an MVP? Josh Allen. There's not a lot of so
Right
so I
touchdown.
think that's the answer to why they're favored in every game. And I think I think to put a bow on it, I think they've improved off of a season where they almost went to the Super Bowl. They lost virtually nothing and they got quite a bit back, especially on the defensive end, which is the side of the ball that has been responsible for their early exits every year. So I think there's quite a lot to be optimistic and excited about. And apart from, like you said, Adrian, just hating the juju of it, I don't think there's any other negative to this.
It is what
Yeah.
it is.
Yeah, it is what it is, right?
Meaningless in my opinion. That's like, yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, you go take the Bills money line in all 17 games, same unit size for every single one. I think you're going to profit.
Are you? Yeah. Unless there's
I
like a
think so.
big upset.
Right. Next on the list, we got my favorite team we talked about. We got Anthony's favorite team we're going to talk about. The Detroit Lions are expected to throw the ball down the field more next season. The Lions are expected to push the ball downfield more in 2025 under new offensive coordinator John Morton, according to Dave Burkett of the Detroit Free Press. Morton comes from Denver, where Bo Nix ranked third in 15-plus yard pass attempts with 126. Mamma mia, for a rookie. That's something. He's already predicted a breakout season for Jameson Williams, who we might talk about a little bit later. He was very, very heavily in contention for some of my fantasy discussions, who led Detroit with five 50-yard catches last year, the most by a Detroit Lions since, you guessed it, Megatron in 2013. Jimmy, let's start with you on this one. What are your expectations for this Lions passing attack this upcoming season?
Yeah, one of my fantasy buys plays into this a little bit. You already teased it a little bit.
Spoiler. No spoiler for sure.
Yeah, no spoiler, just teases here and there, but
Just teases.
The Lions like big plays. I mean, we've seen that before. I think this is like common sense. I think they're going to be expected to throw the ball. I mean, with Jameson Williams in that wide receiver room, Amon-Ra St. Brown, I think the Lions have always been a big play team. Even with Ben Johnson leaving, I still think there'll be kind of the same identity as before, but I'm excited to see what this means. I wouldn't throw a lot of emphasis on this, but it's interesting to note at least. But I think they're big play machines, a lot of big players, a lot of good players. So they're going to be making big plays. I think that's what this comes down to.
And Adrian.
Yeah, I'm going to temper my words here because I don't want to induce the wrath of our producer. But you kind of hear Jameson Williams is going to break out since he got drafted in 22. Every year he's going to break out. To me, the Lions, you know what, like that big play comes from is they kill you in the slot with Amon-Ra. Their run game is so strong, and then they take their shots like tempered, but they take their shots at the right time. And Jameson Williams hauls them in, which he can do. I wouldn't want them throwing downfield more. I think what they've done that kills games is the short to intermediate. And I also feel like John Morton, Bo Nix did great, but he was a downfield passer in college. Jared Goff he's got arm strength and he can zip things into a tight window, but he's not I don't think he's a big downfield passer. He picks his shot and he does it right, but I don't think they should be doing it more than that. For me, you got 4 downs every play because your coach is going to go for it on 4th down almost every time. You've got a slot weapon that is probably one of the best in the game, and you've got a backfield that would rival any other team. Like, why would you go downfield more? do what the Lions do and just exhaust the opponents by just pummeling them.
I think all those things kind of build into being able to do other things like go downfield too. Like if you have like a short game and stuff like that too, then maybe you could throw them off guard and go downfield. So I don't know. Everything sets up for everything if you think about it a little bit. But I don't know if they'll. That's a good point. I don't know if they'll necessarily like plan like, hey, we're gonna go this go route on this play specifically. You know what I mean? Like, is that really gonna happen, or they're just gonna take what the defense gives them? And that might be why they end up doing that.
Yep. And first things first, we do have to just give a special shout out. We got Armand in the chat, our boy. Good to see you, bro. Armand begs a pretty legitimate question here. Could the Lions offense struggle at the start of the season due to learning a new scheme and system? In my humble opinion, as a huge believer of the psychology of sports, right? These players are not chess pieces as much as we like to think of them like that. Their individual performance is dependent on a lot of variables, from what they ate that morning to if they had a fight with their girlfriend the night before. You know, there's so much going into it. When replacing a coordinator, and I unfortunately learned this the hard way when the Bills lost Brian Daboll, you want somebody who can just say, copy paste. Oh, you saw what Daboll did to work, right? Okay, Ken Dorsey, show us what you got. But everybody's different, and everybody's sensibilities are different, and everybody's relationships with the players are different, and everybody's feel for the flow of the game is different. And the Detroit Lions have been one of the most spoiled franchises over the last handful of years with the greatness of Ben Johnson's feel for the flow of the game and play calling and this, that, and the third. And he's gone. He's out of the building. He's not walking through the damn door. John Morton's going to have to figure it out. And if John Morton has a more aggressive personality or is a more aggressive play caller or has a worse feel for the game or doesn't have the best relationships with the players, there will be things that change. I mean, personnel is the best Band-Aid in the game. If you have the right players and the right situations that you can figure it out, that's fine. But I anticipate, and I think Armand pointed it out early in the season, I anticipate at least a change, maybe not necessarily growing pains, but at least a change from the efficiency of the Ben Johnson team, because John Morton's not Ben Johnson.
Yeah, I think that the one thing the Lions have, the ace in their sleeve, is Dan Campbell has that team, pardon me, so bought in, and there's certain head coaches. Nick Sirianni is another one. That they might not be the offensive guru or defensive guru that you want, but what they are is they're the players coach, and they're the ones that keep them bought in every single season. So Dan Campbell brought the guy in. I expect that the players would at least give him the benefit of the doubt and play to his scheme, and not be like, well, no, hold on, Ben Johnson did this, or I wasn't allowed to do that. At least until the rubber hits the road. If you get to 1-3 out of the gates, it might become a different story. But I don't see that happening.
No, and I think buy-in aside, it's who knows if the X's and O's come as naturally to Morton. Like you said, the personnel doesn't really lend itself to downfield passing as well. Like Amon-Ra St. Brown is a specialty in 4 to 7 yards. That's his ace. Sam Laporta, I could see him getting some seam shots, but he's really good in the intermediate range as well. Jamison Williams really is their best deep threat, and whether or not they want to make him a featured part of the offense and whether or not that plays to Goff's strengths, which I don't personally think it does, we'll see. Not that Goff's a slouch in any way. I just don't think that that's his skill set. I don't think that's best catered to his skill set.
Agreed.
But I think, Anthony, if you want to either hop on the mic or just type something out, I mean, in summation, what do you think about this, Anthony? Like, do you think this is a legitimate gripe? Do you think this is a legitimate feeling? Like, where are you at on this before we move on?
Yeah, I'll come in little voiceover stuff here real quick. I think that with the new offensive coordinator, it's just going to be a little bit difficult to really get started. But the players themselves have played together long enough now, a whole season together, where they're going to be able to figure it out. They're going to take a lot of what they knew as players from last year. Just because it's a new coordinator doesn't mean it's new players. And so they're still going to know the X's and O's. They're going to be like, hey, this worked last time, so we can do it again this time. And I think they're going to force the ball downfield more, because that's one thing I noticed was the short game was overused. It was overutilized. kicked us in the ass in the playoffs and lost because of it. And so now I feel like it's going to be like, let's put up more points than we did last year, which is wild because how many points did Detroit put up, right? Now it's like, okay, we're going to hit it even harder. So now we lost our coordinator, but all the players are so used to playing with each other now that chemistry is going to cause them to make the right decisions, and the coordinator knows that. And Dan Campbell, of course, knows that. So Dan Campbell is going to train the coordinators based on what they already know, and I think that everything's going to be, fine with that.
Yeah, I don't disagree. I think that's a pretty good read on it. I think how much Morton's willing to put his ego aside if he has an ego. I'm not super familiar with his work, but how much he's willing to put his ego aside to let the players install the stuff that like you said has worked for them. That's gonna, I think, be a large variable in this in overcoming this learning hurdle, for lack of a better term. Anything else on this, boys, before we put this to bed? All right. Yeah. Last but not least, the Washington Commanders have hired Wes Welker to help Deebo Samuel. What an interesting pairing. Wes Welker was hired shortly after trading for Deebo Samuel, reuniting the duo from their time in San Francisco the years 2019 and 2021. Under Welker, Samuel had a breakout 2021 season with almost 1,800 total yards and 14 total touchdowns, but his production declined after Welker left in 2022. Washington hopes Welker can once again manage Samuel's conditioning and maximize his yards after catch role. This is a pretty fascinating discussion point here, given Deebo Samuel's, I'll say it, fall from grace years back after he was kind of, one of those highly sought after fantasy wide receivers, one of those perceived to be all-time unique weapons. It's really has not been the best, and conditioning could play a role into it. I love the idea of a player like Wes Welker with Wes Welker's craftiness coming in to help Deebo Samuel, because Wes Welker was one of those players who could just create. He could make you miss in a phone booth. He was little, but he could break tackles. He got open. I think a player with Wes Welker's acumen helping out a player with Deebo Samuel's physical traits could be a very, very interesting reuniting, because as we already saw, it worked out really well back in the day. Boys, is this a huge needle mover for you? Is your Deebo Samuel fantasy interest peaked at all, or is this just a cute headline?
I think it's cute. I mean, honestly, I feel like there's a lot of potential here with Deebo Samuel coming to the Commanders, because they needed a little bit more than Terry McLaurin to come in and provide a skill maker for them.
Yeah,
but as we've seen,
didn't do it.
Yeah. But as we've seen, and as you've mentioned, the fall from grace was definitely there. But the narrative aspect of it, the player aspect of it, bringing in somebody that helped him in the past, that has that experience, I think it could be somewhat beneficial. But I still feel like it's more narrative than anything else. We have to see it on the field. But I mean, it's not a negative at all. But how much of a positive is it? Not a lot in my eyes.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I'll let you go first, Himi, because I'm about to go a little bit scorched earth on this. Like, this is like such a cliche that you watch, like Team X hires familiar coaching staff to unlock player Y. And I'm kind of like, Deebo Samuel had one breakout year, and I agree with the fall from grace comment. He also had that breakout year when, like, the Shanahan outside zone scheme was taking the league by storm. You're going to bring in a wide receiver coach, and you're going to tell me he's going to fix him? A couple facts on Wes Welker. He was with the Texans in 17 and 18. They ranked 30th in passing. With the Dolphins the last 3 years, they ranked 14th each year. He is not the reason that a wide receiver is going to like bust out. Now, I understand, they're bringing him in for conditioning and yards after the catch. I get that part of it. I'm not saying that they're bringing him in as like, the ace in the hole. It's just, to me, Deebo is who he's going to be, and he's going to be a little bit of a product of the scheme around him. And he worked best as that gadget guy. They lined him up in the backfield. They lined him up out wide. They threw him all over the place, and it worked well because it was Shanahan's scheme. Now, Cliff Kingsbury has had success with his scheme last year, taking away his Arizona years, but I don't think Wes Welker is going to be the guy that makes Deebo Samuel succeed. I think at this point in his career, he's going to be a solid 2, and he's going to slowly fade, and we'll remember him in 5 years' time when he's being bounced around as to a different sort of spot every year. But I don't think this is anything.
It's an off-season cliche.
Yeah, it's such a cliche.
That's what it comes down to. That's the thing you started with. It's like this is said about so many players, and I don't think
Oh, it kills
I don't
me.
know what the percentages are, but I think it's probably said about every player that gets to a new team, and they try to fit them in this way. So
I will come in as the resident, lover of narratives and the resident optimist. I'm not overly defending this. I'm not saying this story is any different from any of the freaking Disney movie bullcrap that we get in the NFL in the offseason. I'm not saying that. But for every Deebo Samuel and Wes Welker seemingly red herring, there's a Dave Canales, Baker Mayfield. There's Joe Flacco to the Browns. There's always going to be one of these, and you have to be smart, and that's what makes great analysts. That's what makes great fantasy football players. That's what makes great bettors. There's always going to be one where it's not just the narrative, right? There's always going to be one where the reunion is going to pay dividends, and it's going to be beautiful. I think
for a wide receiver before, because you mentioned quarterbacks. I was trying to think of like wide receiver coaches. This might be a newer cliche, I guess. I don't know.
That's a good point.
So you might be right. It might be a little bit different.
I'm not sure. I know that Chad Hall was the wide receiver coach, I think, for Jacksonville.
Reggie Wayne,
Gabe Davis. Gabe Davis is going to be reunited with Chad Hall, and Gabe Davis had a career horrible year, and now he's a free agent. You're right. Maybe you're right. Maybe it's a little different with wide receivers. Wide receiver coaches, you don't really think that they have that much of an impact. I mean, obviously they do, right? I mean, they're paid professionals. Every team has one.
I mean, we have one that's a future Hall of Famer, hopefully, Reggie Wayne. So
that's right. And you got some pretty good receivers,
Yeah, they're all right. Yeah, we're working on different positions right now to help them out, but
exactly. So there's a lot to all this. I don't know. I think I co-sign and I agree with your guys' pessimism. I think Deebo might become interesting. And again, this is kind of a fantasy football episode, so I'm going to analyze it from a fantasy football perspective. I think Deebo might become interesting as a post-hype sleeper if this negative press and the negative perception around him continues. At some point, he's going to become a value if he keeps sliding. If he's
especially in like a redraft.
Yeah, if he's available in like the 12th round, what's the harm? The Titan Maximum, it's great to have you.
You could start all year, and I would say the under.
Yeah, that's an easy under. Like
because rushing touchdowns are, I think he would get enough rushing touchdowns to keep that under 18.
Yeah, and he also
what
kind of sucks also. So there's
that. Danny Dimes, you can't have that nickname without. Anyways,
dude, I was the resident Dimes truther, man. Don't even go there.
I was the hater. I've always done the haterade.
Ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, it is time for Legit Footballs. Oh, and Big Dog nailed it today. Anthony Weiner in mid-season form. We have a fantasy football buy and sell episode where we are actually rounding it out. Believe it or not, maybe this isn't our official flag plant episode, but we do have flag plants. Fantasy football flag plants. That's a legit football staple from the last 3 off seasons. Last year, I told you to buy Jerry Jeudy at wide receiver 50, and I'm pretty sure he was a wide receiver too. So you're welcome. Adrian made fun of me for that. And again, I repeat, you're welcome. Just listen to me and don't listen to him because he told you to buy Calvin Ridley.
Also true. Also true.
I gotta take my wall of receipts. Here's one.
Take the dub. And you know what? I'll own the L. I'm pretty sure I rounded out that episode by saying, what the bloody hell do I know? Like, we'd have no idea what's gonna happen next season, but this year's different.
Oh, Adrian knows what's going to happen this year, ladies and gentlemen. And his buy, let me tell you, is it's a spicy one. So we're going to start off with some veteran players here. Are we going to double down or cash out on these veteran players? I really love the wording here. Anthony got deep in his Birkin bag for this one. These are players age 27 plus or 5+ years in the league. There could be some dips in value, some bounce backs, or signs of decline. Adrian, let's start with you. Give me a fantasy football veteran sell.
You want to sell?
Well, give me your sell.
Okay, I like my buy better than myself, so I'm gonna give you myself. So this one here, this is not going to be breaking news to anyone. Ramondre Stevenson, we talked about him last week actually, and how the context with which we talked about him was how the Patriots are viewing Trayvon Henderson as their bell cow, as their 3 down back. Now, Ramondre had problems with fumbles. He's got a new coaching regime who didn't draft him. All they've seen is last year's tape. They've sort of spoken globally about Hendrickson. And so to me, before the draft it was the ideal time to sell him, which of course, crystal ball, we all wish we could go back there. But now to me, get what you can, because it feels like, it almost feels like, all right, well, I could have got more before. I'm going to lose now. I'm telling you, sell, because by about week 4 or week 5, where his snap share is like 10, 12%, 13%, like he's going to be out. I would be trying to work a trading for someone like Brian Robertson Jr., like another RB2, but he's got a much stronger floor and a much better chance of playing more often. So Ramondre Stevenson hurts me to say, because he was my guy at one point. So
yeah, not exactly the highest hanging fruit, but not exactly the lowest either. I'm not mad at this.
Get off before it hits the ground. Get off before the roller coaster hits the ground.
I think you're right. I think it's a good call. There could be whispers of a trade I'm hearing, and if that happens, he almost becomes like that. That's the only reason why I might not jump into the sell, because if he does get traded and he's a bell cow somewhere, I mean, I doubt he will be.
I don't think he will be.
He's more likely to get traded and be sort of like a Jay Ajayi, like kind of like bouncing around before he flames out. The only thing, also, he did just sign a big contract with them. I mean, that's something to consider, at least, right? And
I get it, but he didn't sign it with Vrabel.
They all bought Ramondre Stevenson jerseys, so yeah. Might have been poor Emily. Might have been a waste of money. Jimmy, what's your thoughts on Ramondre before giving us your sell?
Yeah, I'm on the same page. Just jump off before it hits the ground. I was gonna say, like, you're not gonna get a lot for him, but Adrian's right. You got to, if you want to get something, there might be somebody. I don't know. It'd be hard to find a buyer for Ramondre Stevenson at this point. But
third or fourth, would you sell him for even a 4th round pick?
I would keep for this year. I think there's potential in him, like the first half of the year, maybe still
wait for him to have a good game. Wait for him to fall into the end zone and then try to get like a second or something.
Yeah, I don't know if Travion Henderson is going to jump in immediately, but I think it's worth the wait of maybe a big game. I don't know, because a 4th, it's like, what's the point? I don't know. Who are you looking at getting?
Yeah, Travion Henderson's a damn good
It's the same with keeping Ramondre Stevenson. It's like, what are you expecting there either? So maybe a few good games at the beginning of the year, but at the end of the year, it's going to be so much worse. So
I feel like selling Ramondre now would have been like selling Rashad White before last season, and now everybody who didn't really wishes they could. So
yeah, I have him.
I agree with you, Adrian. Jimmy, who's your veteran sell?
My veteran sell. So this is a guy that was a touchdown machine last year with a rookie quarterback. I have Terry McLaurin.
Whoa.
So I have Terry McLaurin. Did you think I was going to say somebody else? I don't know.
I did, actually.
No, Terry McLaurin, he had 13 touchdowns last year. Previous years, he had 4, 3, 4, 5 along those lines. So this is more of a, the touchdown, 13 touchdowns. Is he going to get that again? My bet is not. So I think it'd be beneficial to sell him, because the opportunity is the highest it's ever been for Terry McLaurin.
Definitely.
Probably close, at least for some time.
Yeah.
Beginning of his career, maybe not, but
so you're forecasting touchdown regression.
Yes, I'm forecasting might be the highest value he'll be at.
Over under 9.5 touchdowns.
I'll say under.
I'll
say like 7 or 8.
I think it's pretty reasonable.
Blasphemy. That's okay.
I think it's reasonable, and I think this is a great moment for the old meme. Why would you say something so controversial yet so brave? We have to give Jimmy credit here, because Terry McLaurin's a fantasy darling. He's an NFL darling. He's incredible at football. He's attached to one of the most likable young offenses, one of the most likable young quarterbacks. And yet, I think I agree with Jimmy here. I think we might have seen a ceiling season, and it's not like they're not going to continue to try. The only problem is what have they really done to get better at that position? Debo?
But that's
the
thing
is it going? Where's the work going?
It's just Debo.
Debo, who you
need. That's more than anybody they had last year.
he has perpetually been a guy we've talked about as like this guy. He's getting done dirty by the players around him, by his quarterback. They finally got a good guy in there. They got an offense coordinator who likes to go downfield. To me, I mean, look, I'm particularly defensive because he won me a lot of games last year, and I've always loved Scary Terry. I just don't agree with this one. I think, like, look, you know what? Maybe there's going to be some regressions. Maybe he's not going to hit 13 again, but he looks like he's having more fun playing football last year than he has his entire career. And I feel like, not even me, we all did. Everyone always said he was a good receiver, and that he's finally got the pieces around him.
If I had Terry McLaurin, I'm like, maybe I could get a first or something out of somebody.
Totally.
Like maybe you would give up a first and a little something else. But like Jane Daniels had 25 pass touchdowns last year. Terry McLaurin had 13 receiving touchdowns. That's a high rate. So did they bring anybody in? No, but especially in dynasties, 29. So if you're
got Wes Welker. No.
True. They had Wes Welker. They talked about him helping Debo, but what about Terry? Let's talk about it.
No, I like it. I think it's brave. I if you recall last week, my sell was pretty controversial. So I'm Team Jimmy on this one.
Who were you selling last week?
I sold AJ Brown last week.
You sold him?
Yeah, I sold him.
How much?
First round pick.
Oh, that's not bad. I would
totally. Yeah, I would take
AJ from you for a first.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah, it's
not for the 1-4, but anything past that, why not?
I foresee a ceiling, or I foresee a dip in production in AJ Brown's future. I think you might just make the peak last week. We did a little teaser buy sell last week.
So you changed
my
it up
sell today. I have a 2-pack of AFC East wide receivers for my veteran sells, and it shouldn't be hard to figure out who they are because they're the same age. I believe they're both going into their age 31 season. They're both coming off of injuries. They're both coming off of massively disappointing seasons. One of them was not as injured as the other one. One of them tore their ACLs, so it's pretty reasonable. And that one was also seen giving out a mysterious pink substance to a couple women on a boat this past week. I'm talking about my best friend, my all-time best friend, wide receiver Stephon Diggs, and perhaps more controversially, but it shouldn't be, last year's arguably biggest fantasy disappointment, Tyreek Hill. I don't know what you could still get for these guys, but they have the name value, and that is a massive, massive thing in Dynasty. I don't think there's a world where you couldn't find a league mate who'd give you a second for Hill and maybe a third for Diggs. And I think as disappointing as that would be for what you probably could have gotten for them had you sold a year earlier, I think it's better, again, get off the roller coaster before it hits the ground. We're looking at Tyreek Hill, who was like a low-end wide receiver 2 last year and just felt unplayable at times. And we're looking at Stephon Diggs, who's 31 years old, coming off of a torn ACL and is attached to a second-year quarterback. And the most recent report on his health is he may not even be ready for the start of the season. I heard he was targeting a week 4 return. How easily does that turn into the pup? You know?
Yeah.
Get out while you can, is my advice.
Yes. I feel like Stephon. Sorry, Jimmy.
I was just going to say it would be hard to give them up for a second or third. Because I'm picturing like doing that in my head. I'm like, my team has to be catastrophic to do something like that. Maybe getting a player or something you believe in return, like Stephon Diggs in a second and Kyle Williams or something like that. Somebody that can produce while he's gone. But I don't know anybody that would do that either. So it's a tough situation for these guys. So
I think this is the last window of value that they're going to have.
Yeah, I think I agree fully with Stephon Diggs. Tyreek Hill, I still could see just a return to grace.
Not without a trade. And the trade talks have slowed down. There was so much trade speculation earlier in the offseason. Look, he got healthy Tua back last year. He missed Tua for a couple games, and that was tough. But when Tua was there, it wasn't much better. It might have been worse. There's no, and he's still Tyreek Hill. He's still got the cheetah shine. He's still got the memories of him with the Chiefs or the early days in Miami, but he's cooked.
Yeah, he's a bit more name than game at this point, I guess. And I say that as someone who recently acquired him, founder of Legit Football Trade. Now, well, he was packaged with Josh Jacobs, so like let's to me, he was worth it.
Well, go sell him for a second if you can.
Yeah. You know, look, it's a fair call. Maybe I might even throw, a few. I mean, all our legit players are watching this and knowing that offers are coming their way. Yeah, I understand your point. But Stephon Diggs, I agree with you. Cooked. I actually said, if you remember right, when he got out of Buffalo, I said you guys dodged a bullet, and I stand by that.
Yeah,
there's a lot of good wide receivers you could get in the second round too. Now that I'm thinking about like Jaden Higgins, that's somebody that if he falls a little bit, you could pick him up instead of one of those guys if you made that trade. So
can you still get a second for Diggs, or is that coming off of a torn ACL?
Get a second for I think you could because
then you have to.
I'd rather trade for Tyreek. No, I don't know. It's tough. They're both in the similar position, so I like it.
If you can get a second for Diggs, you have to. He's 31 and he's coming off of a torn ACL.
Yeah.
I would be willing to maybe come down to a third or a pick swap or something.
If I was a competitor, I would potentially trade a second for him because a lot of those wide receivers might not produce immediately, but neither will Diggs. So
I mean,
he's looking at a lot of targets if it works out this year.
If it works out, but even then, it's. I digress. I feel like we had a great.
That's a bit, yeah.
We can leave that one where it is. Adrian, talk to us about your veteran buy.
All right, so my veteran buy is DJ Moore. DJ Moore, like quietly. So if you split up his season last year, and you draw the line where Shane Waldron was fired, he was wide receiver 32 up until then. He jumped to wide receiver 11 in the remaining 7 weeks. His fantasy points per game went up 6 points per game. He went up 3 receptions per game. You got Ben Johnson there now, who has been 2nd, 3rd, and 8th in passing yards in the last 3 years, respectively. I do appreciate they drafted Colston Loveland. He's going to take a little bit of a share, but Keenan Allen's probably not coming back. And I just think right now, Fantasy Pros has DJ Moore ranked as a tier 4 wide receiver. And I'm not saying he's going to be your 1, but I do feel like if you can get him as your wide receiver 2, at the moment is probably the cheapest you're going to get him. I feel like when the season starts and if he's got some chemistry with what Ben Johnson is selling, I feel like he's really going to break out. Because we saw him do well in the Panthers. He even in a moribund Panthers team, he still did well. So I think you saw that sort of contrast last year, and we saw that Shane Waldron was the problem. I don't want him to be amazing because he's a bear, but DJ Moore.
Ladies and gentlemen, the controversial and brave award may have shifted from Jimmy to Adrian on this one. First things first, I love the pick, and I'm excited to talk about it. I just want to address this really quick. The deeper game. Shout out to you. I'm seeing a question here. Got offered Kamara and a 2026 first, mid to late for Egbuka and Reed. Me personally, given that he has BTJ, Ladd, and T, I'm taking that deal because then you're upgrading your running back and you're getting a future first. And I don't think you need those wide receivers. That would be my personal opinion.
Yep, I'm with you. So I'm reading
I'm okay
through.
with that.
Yeah, I'm comfortable with that.
I like
Kamara's a reception machine. He'll pay dividends in some capacity at least.
Yeah, and it's PPR.
And the Saints will suck.
And we appreciate you for this comment as well. Deeper game.
No wonder you highlighted his comment.
You are the GOAT. Jimmy, what are your thoughts on Adrian's shot call of DJ Moore by?
I don't think it's as much of as like a crazy thing as you might have made it seem compared to mine. I think this is probably less crazy than mine, just based off of his value. I think there's a lot of potential in this offense. I don't know. There's still a lot of mouths to feed, and I'll go into that with one of my picks in the near future in terms of sells. So I might be going back and forth on it, but I do feel like DJ Moore's the obvious number 1 here for the team, and they built the offensive line. So hopefully Caleb Williams gets a chance. So if you're a Caleb Williams believer, then you should be a DJ Moore believer as well, at least for the next couple seasons. That's the big question, though. Are you a Caleb Williams believer? Do you think he can turn into someone like what Jane Daniels did with Terry McLaurin? Can DJ Moore get those touchdowns this year? Caleb Williams has to get the ball off to make that happen. And Colston Loveland, I mean, we got so many people, so many playmakers, but they're not running the ball apparently. I don't know. DeAndre Swift, that's
and it. As you all know, Caleb Williams was one of the 5 hardest players to put your eyeballs on in the NFL last year. Made my list of hardest watches of the year. So, I kind of feel like DJ Moore, if you're going to buy, you got to be prepared for a couple 6 for 50s because he had about 6 of them last year. 6 games. He had 6 catches for 50 yards. He's getting the damn line behind the line of scrimmage dump off, and he's getting 5 yards on it. It's. I personally find it controversial and brave because I don't know if I forecast that huge jump. Getting what was it, Shane Waldron out of the building was a huge win. But other than that, I'm not really sure. I'm not really sure if I agree, but that's why this is a beautiful thing. We'll tighten up our discussions a little bit. We'll be a little faster with our discussions. Credit to Adrian for using the word moribund earlier. That was pretty cool. Jimmy, give us your veteran buy.
I like Derrick Henry. He just signed a 2-year extension, and I think it will be 2 years with the team.
We both pouted.
What? Yeah.
We both pouted at that.
I don't know.
I'm not gonna root against Derrick Henry. I feel like if you're a competitor, I mean, this is obviously if you're buying somebody like Derrick Henry, you're a team that feels like they can win the championship. And if somebody, I feel like you can trade a late first for Derrick Henry, and I would honestly take that in a heartbeat. For a couple years of somebody that could be a top 5 running back. I don't know. I just don't see him going downhill within at least the next year. So I think a couple of these years he'll ball out, and Saquon will kind of overshadowed him a little bit. So I think the value could be there.
So you do really believe that he's not going to retire after this year? Let's say the Ravens, they're not going to because Lamar Jackson in the playoffs, we all know. But let's say the Ravens win the Super Bowl. Does he retire?
I mean, maybe, I would still buy him.
Okay. And you said you'd give up a first for him.
Late first, yeah.
If I'm the Henry owner,
Kevin's got him in the legit league.
If I'm the no. If I'm the Henry owner, I might take it first for him. That's pretty interesting. I don't hate it because you're saying if you're a win now team, go lock up.
I mean, it sounds like worst case scenario, they win the Super Bowl, which means he had a fantastic year.
Yeah.
Or he plays a couple years and he's still a running back 1. So I think he's durable enough. He showed a lot last year, and with the Saquon hype, I think you could even get an early second if it's somebody that's not looking to. I mean, it's the same. It's basically the same pick almost. Just a few.
Adrian, you giving up a first round pick for Derrick Henry right now? Before we move on,
but he's one of those players that's like we've been predicting his downfall forever and a day, and he just keeps delivering. So maybe I'm wrong.
I did the same thing in legit. I did buy Mike Evans, and I think Mike Evans is kind of a similar case of like someday that 1,000-year season is not going to come, but it hasn't been today. Hasn't been yet.
Yeah, it's like looking at like Caleb Johnson, Derrick Henry. Who will be better for you as a contender for the next 2 years? I think it would be Derrick Henry.
My vet buy is kind of an interesting one. I think I might have kind of broken. I think I might have crossed over the territory of the younger but not rookie players. But I don't really care, and I'm not sorry because for some reason this player feels like a veteran, and I'm also totally bullish on the buy. Jordan Addison needs some love, man. Jordan Addison has been a top 24 wide receiver in all of his NFL seasons thus far. He continues to manage to get on the field, and he continues to score a lot of touchdowns. And I think J.J. McCarthy being the NBA rookie quarterback, which we dubbed him last week, hasn't taken an NFL snap yet, is still technically not a rookie. I think Jordan Addison has the potential to be a safety valve. I want to believe in Hawkinson, but his kind of his lower production last year scared me off of him a little bit. And so the Vikings, there's yards and there's targets to go around. And I think Jordan Addison, if he works up a good chemistry with J.J. McCarthy and Justin Jefferson continues to be one of the best wide receivers on the planet, I think Jordan Addison will be open a lot. And I think he'll continue to do all he's done in his NFL career, which is produce.
Have you been listening to fantasy footballers?
What was the stat?
It was the who am I? They were going through that, and who hasn't hit 1,000 yards but been a wide receiver 2 for their whole carear, and who's had 10 touchdowns each of his last 2 seasons.
There you go.
I was like Jordan Addison, so I like this.
Yeah, it's right. Why not? I mean, it's kind of like I don't think he has that glimmer that you expect a player who's had his production would have. So why not take a stab? Why not go out there and upgrade your wide receiver 2 position. You know, trade like a Jordan or a Jaden Reed for him. You know, I would. Sorry, Adrian.
No. But you know what? We do have to move. So all I was going to say is he gets the same treatment to Higgins, Devonta Smith, Jalen Waddle. They're just overshadowed by the giant in front of him. But he's a great player.
Yep. All right. Second year player, buy, sell. We'll switch to rapid fire here. Who wants it?
I'll give you both of my. I'll give you my buy and my sell. My sell is a very short pitch that you're gonna yell at me for. My sell is Brian Thomas Jr. And the reason for that is he's currently a first round pick. And I just believe in Travis. I believe in Travis Hunter. I believe his ceiling is high. I believe he's going to be the wide receiver 1, and I believe this is the most he's going to be worth. I'm not gonna elaborate. That is my pitch, and I will take no questions.
I'm not mad at it only because of the sheer value that he's worth and the likelihood that he'll have a statistical season like he had last year is slim. But man, does he pass the eye test, Adrian? And that's something you have to consider, man. That's I'm
not saying he's a fantastic player. I really do. I love him, man. I'm almost upset that Travis Hunter is there because I wanted him as the wide receiver 1 in Jacksonville. But yeah. So that's my sell, and my buy is Ricky Pearsall.
I like that.
You know,
I love that.
As a rookie,
I would have taken that if you hadn't. Yeah.
He got shot in the chest, like checks notes, shot in the chest, still flashed as a rookie, still wide receiver 7 and 4 in the final 2 weeks. Yeah, it is not. He was not Bon Jovi shot through the heart. He physically got shot. And so to me, he was in a Niners team that was kind of plummeting last year. They had the worst rest differential in the league. So they were, schedule sucked. I just see him coming out and just like blowing up this year, especially with Debo gone. So they're my buy sells.
I love the Ricky Pearsall pick, man. I think there's such potential for him to be amazing. The target void with Debo leaving, IU coming off of a torn ACL. I think Ricky Pearsall could be a fantastic, fantastic player. Armand maybe saying that he got hurt again a few days ago. I haven't heard any news of this, and until it affects.
Because if he wasn't shot, he's good.
Until it affects their
training.
Amen. I tend not to take injuries too seriously until it affects their training camp time. So that's just my 2 cents. But Jimmy, what do you got for buy and sell for second year players?
For my buy, I have Trey Benson, backup running back for the Cardinals. So I think he was pretty efficient last year, 4.6 yards per carry. I feel like this is different than maybe like the Derrick Henry. James Conner's been productive for a while, but at least they have someone behind him that could get a little more carries this season, and he proved to be efficient last year. And obviously, you guys gave me weird looks, but I feel like he could be relatively cheap if you're a believer in him. I mean, you could probably trade. I mean, if you don't like the running backs this year, I think there's a lot of good running backs in the rookie drafts, but I think somebody might need a wide receiver, late second, something like that. I think that would be easy, like early third. I think I would take that for Trey Benson.
I love that, man. I love that because you're right. The excitement of his rookie year has completely worn off. So it's kind of a perfect time to buy him if you're a true believer in his game, because how long does James Conner have? You know,
who knows? He could keep going. I have no idea, but
could be this year, could be next year, but Benson's there for another 3. So
I'm going to put out the narrative that there's been talks that they're going to limit James Conner's workload this year. That's me just putting that in the air right now. It's not true. Might not be true at all. I don't know.
Could be huge.
But I feel like a lot of people do that. My sell is Rome Odunze. So I'm interested to see what Adrian thinks of that, because he had the buy of DJ Moore. I have the sell of Rome Odunze. If you pair the two, I don't know how that goes, but I think Rome Odunze had an all right year last year. Obviously, the Bears didn't look as good, but we talked about it. If you're a Caleb Williams believer, by all means, you can grab Rome Odunze, but there's a lot of people on the Bears that could break out with the Ben Johnson hiring. They had Luther Burden come in. They lost Keenan Allen, so this could be a spot that Rome Odunze fills in. But there's just so many mouths to feed in Chicago, with Cole Kmet obviously still there too, and Colson Loveland. So if you can sell Rome Odunze, some people might still be hype on him with the Ben Johnson hiring. So
it's hard not to want to buy because I love his talent so much, but I hate his situation similarly. So it's just, and that's why I'm not in on DJ Moore, because again, I'm not saying Caleb Williams is not going to succeed in the NFL, but he has not shown yet that he can. And that's, until I see that, it's going to be hard for me to divert real assets for
Yeah, I don't know what you could get for Rome.
Second.
Yeah, I think a second.
I'll probably pay a second.
Yeah.
Yeah, and ladies and gentlemen, next on the list we got my second-year players. I have a 2-pack for each. Actually, I have a 2-pack to buy. I'll start with my 2-pack to buy. It's both running back second-year players. I think you want to get out ahead of the price increase that I foresee with once we see this player get more snaps, and that is Buffalo Bills running back Ray Davis. James Cook currently does not have a contract beyond this season. He has not shown up to OTAs, and I would not be surprised if his training camp exposure is limited. Do I want the Bills to pay James Cook? Of course I do. I love Baby Cook. You guys have known that forever. Do I think the Bills should pay James Cook $15 million a year? Of course I don't. I'm not a dummy. So we have Ray Davis, who in one game last year where James Cook sat, had over 100 all-purpose yards and a touchdown, had some of the flashiest and best plays by a Bills running back last year. He had a 55-yard touchdown reception against the Dolphins. He had a way down the field reception against the Jets. He's kind of has a power back build. I love Ray Davis, and buying him now means you get him at backup running back cost, not at starting running back cost, which he might end up being because Brandon Beane doesn't pay running backs. Devin Singletary, bye-bye. Zach Moss, you're shipped out of town. James Cook, 16 NFL's leader in touchdowns last year, and he doesn't have a contract going into training camp. Buy Ray Davis now. Thank me later. Also, I have Bucky Irving. Not afraid of the Bucky Irving price increase. He's being drafted as the RB6 this year. Some people think that's his ceiling. I'm not one of those people. What I saw from Bucky Irving on tape last year was a player who is a bulldozer, even for his size, a player who is durable, even though he has an injury scare every other minute, and a player who is going to cash your parlay. Take Bucky Irving touchdown, take Bucky Irving receptions, take Bucky Irving this, that, and the third. He's a true valuable weapon for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I just traded Christian McCaffrey for Bucky Irving in our Demon Dynasty League, and I have absolutely no regrets about it. Boys, that's my 2-pack of
straight up. Was that a straight up trade or no?
No, there was some other moving parts.
You gave up a little bit more, I assume.
I gave up a little bit more, but
yeah, but not
yeah.
Nice. You sell James Cook?
I didn't say sell James Cook. If you roll the tape back.
No, I know you did. And I'm just it goes into my head when you say that.
Thank you, Anthony. A very, very well timed. No, I'm buying Ray Davis and I'm buying Bucky Irving. Please, boys, before I move on with my sells, please tell me what you think about those.
I think I'd be very surprised if James Cook gets paid, and don't get upset at me, but like miss me with doing one good season and then getting paid. You know who else was a touchdown leader 3 years ago? Jamal Williams. Where does he play now? Like, it's not time to be holding out James Cook. That's more personal advice to him. I still like him as a player. Bucky Irving, nothing further to add. He's awesome.
Yeah, Bucky Irving, good trade by you. It's hard. I feel like it'd be hard to get him at this point with the high price. Ray Davis, yeah. Same with Trey Benson. I feel like this opportunity
similar, totally similar. My 2-pack of sells are both wide receivers. My 2-pack of buys for running backs. My 2-pack of sells are both wide receivers, and they're both first round wide receivers. I still think you can get a little bit of that perceived greatest of all time, greatest wide receiver. But he's getting by the minute. What's up, Fabian?
There's always an appearance. He missed last week, so he's back.
He really does have your smile, though.
Can you say?
Really does have your
touchdown once.
Yeah, let's go.
So, I think.
Guys.
I think you can still capitalize on a little bit of the excitement from Marvin Harrison Jr. being the greatest wide receiver prospect of all time. When we all saw him with our own eyeballs on the field, he didn't look like the greatest wide receiver prospect of all time. I don't think he's a bad player, and I think he'll have better days. But I think what you paid for him to get him initially, which is probably the 101 or 102 last year, I think whatever you trade him for will be worth more than what you can get now will be worth more than what he will end up being, in my humble opinion. Xavier Legette, similar situation. Bryce Young has kind of been anointed as like having pseudo arrived after a nice ending stretch of last season, but he's still Bryce Young and he still got to put it together for a full season. And Xavier Legette has shifted down to the wide receiver 2 for that team, with Tataroa McMillan being the 8th overall selection in the draft, which is way higher draft capital. And Legette did not necessarily pan out the way we all thought he would. So if you could still get value on these guys as first round prospects for teams that, in my opinion, don't necessarily have, I know they have technically stable quarterbacks because they have their starters ironed out, but I don't really think Kyler and Bryce Young are the guys who I want their targets for, me personally. So boys, on the wide receiver cells, thoughts?
Good call. Excellent pronunciation of, I'm not even going to try. I'm going to say Ted McMillan. Excellent pronunciation of the full name. Yeah, no, I agree, man. Leggett, and I've got him in a league. He's a bit of disappointment. The drops have been a problem. There was an actual, I heard this on another podcast, actual real headline. Xavier Leggett is focusing on catching the ball. Dude, you're a receiver. So I agree. And Harrison, I think, look, Harrison's one of those ones that will come back to bite you, though. I feel like it's one of those ones you could sell because it's like, he's going to drop. He's in the wrong scheme. He's got the wrong quarterback. And then he could just absolutely blow up. Like, he's got that potential in him.
Yeah. I think Marvin Harrison's a risk for sure, but I think you should throw out some trade offers for people that you like and maybe get some value for people that like Marvin Harrison maybe more than you if you are looking to sell him. Xavier Leggett, I would just hold at this point. After drafting Tet, I think you might as well hold him. I don't know what you would necessarily get for him, and if the Panthers offense succeeds, I think he could benefit to some capacity. So just hold on to him, I guess.
Yeah. No, I'm no debates or complaints from me, fellas. Last but not least, absolutely wonderful discussions. We're gonna table the flag plants discussion for next episode. We did run a little bit long on everything. No regrets though, because that's the kind of thorough analysis you get from us on Legit Football. Fantasy flag plant should be its own episode anyway. It's a great segment. So last but not least, we have rookie buy and sell. Adrian, we've been starting with you all day. Why break the tradition now? Give me your rookie buy and your rookie sell for fantasy football.
Absolutely. Can we just, I know we're running late, but we've got Tyler in the comments asked, just throw a question out. I feel like maybe we should address it very quickly. Garrett Wilson with Justin Fields in a redraft league. And
he said Fildes, by the way.
Yeah, which is the Spanish pronunciation, as we all know. Yeah. Garrett Wilson seems brought back in. I think he seems brought back in. He said he wants to be a Jet for life. That is a very different tune to what he was saying with Aaron Rodgers. I do feel Justin Fields is going to be a really good thing for the Jets, and I like Aaron Glenn there. So to me, as a redraft, I think he's still
low end. You can get good value. You get some good value on Garrett Wilson. He has high upside.
Low end wide receiver 1. Yeah. All right. Adrian, take it away.
Sorry. Okay. I only have a rookie buy. I didn't put a sell because I feel like I want to see them. My rookie buy is Jack Besh. He's currently 3rd on the depth chart with the Raiders, but he's behind Trey Tucker and Jacoby Myers, who Myers, to his credit, doesn't get enough love for what he does. But I think, like, all the reports out of rookie minicamp were absolutely glowing. He's projected to be the 2 very soon, if not the 1. Pete Carroll, he knows how to develop receivers. Remember when Metcalf was like touted as a workout warrior, and then now look at him. He has this chemistry with Jonty that he seems like he's been building, and as a team player, like, it seems like he's building. And speaking of Jonty, I still think we should call him Jonty.
Yeah, he's been trying to call him Jonty. He's trying to make Jonty.
Yeah, every time he says it, I'm like, who is he talking about?
Jonty. The fact that they've got him means the boxes are probably going to be loaded. So you got this strong physical player who plays the way Pete Carroll likes to play. He's got a really good work ethic. I think the guy's going to be wide receiver 1 before the end of the year.
Whoa.
Yeah. And I can't knock it, right? Besh has gotten
Raiders wide receiver 1, not fantasy wide receiver 1.
The fantasy community has very much anointed Jack Besh. He's one of those darlings that kind of gets very, very ludicrously overhyped and gassed up. And you know what? I'm not here for it. I haven't drafted him anywhere. If I recall correctly, I might have been asleep at the wheel on the Jack Besh hype train. And now I might have missed the boat because I think, buying him you'd probably have to pay more now than what you freaking paid to draft him, given the hype. So
projected second now. He was, I think, if I remember on the legit, Brian might have got him in the 3rd.
Yeah.
Late 3rd.
Yeah, it's possible. Oh, wow. So, Jimmy, give us your rookie buy and sells for fantasy football.
Yeah. So my buy was Caleb Johnson. I feel like he has a good kind of position to just ease into the Steelers in terms of Najee Harris leaving. I think he'll be able to jump right in there. I don't think Jalen Warren's somebody you need to worry about. I think he has a role, and I think he's old enough to where it could diminish a little bit. And I think Caleb Johnson could come in and provide a spark for you immediately, no matter what type of team you have. So if you're getting late into the first and you have Caleb Johnson still there, I think that could be a good value. especially if you need a running back. And there's no wide receivers in that like kind of time frame before you hit the second round that could be good for you. But sell, I just have Jalen Royals. I was looking at like third round later rookies and stuff. But in terms of Chiefs wide receivers, just sell them, I guess. It was hard for me to pick a rookie to sell at this point, but
Selling
I was just
Jalen
looking at
Royals,
Chiefs.
man. There's a void there, man. There's a void there.
That's people think that maybe it doesn't work out.
But the reason I'm buying is because I got him in the late third as well, bro. Like, I don't know. You're not gonna have to pay enough of the leg for him right now. And it's just, if you're gonna have a lottery ticket and you know that one has 5% chance of paying out $1 million or one has a 10% chance of paying out $20, you're gonna take the 5% chance at $1 million at a Mahomes wide receiver 1 as opposed to a 10% chance at having, Deontay Johnson or something like that. So I don't know. That's just my.
I was looking at like third round and late, like wide receivers drafted like third round and later. I was like, I don't know.
I can't knock it.
Like, there's not many people that like have the value that he does in that late.
Yeah,
so.
You're trying to capitalize on the perceived value that a sucker like me might be salivating at.
Yeah, but a lot of these guys, you're obviously not going to sell because they're just getting drafted. So
yeah, you probably just drafted them exactly.
Yeah, you're not selling for a second.
My rookie buy is easy money, and it's one that I can't believe you both didn't already have, and it's one that I think could be a fantasy football RB1. I'm talking about RJ Harvey for the Denver Broncos. My buddy Joe Crack freaking sniped me in the chat trying to make me look bad on my own podcast. You got to buy RJ Harvey. He's going to be in the Sean Payton offense. He's might have the Kamara role, and who is he competing with for touches? You know what I'm saying? Jaleel McLaughlin.
Watch out, Jaleel.
Yeah, I'm getting all the shares of RJ Harvey I can, which so far is none, because again, talking about asleep at the wheel, I didn't realize how coveted he'd be, and I missed out on the chance to draft him in all my dynasty leagues. So fingers crossed. I
had to take him in the first.
Yeah.
Audrey Castanet, come on.
Oh my God. Anthony's
yelling at you.
I love Notre Dame, man. I was trying to make Estime a thing last year, but he's not a thing. We tried, it didn't work out. I would, if you have any shares of Estime left, I'd
sell him. Is that your sell?
That no, he's not even worthy of being
not a rookie. Yeah,
if he couldn't even carve out a role with like the ghost of Javonte Williams there.
The Crows. My rookie sell is kind of a weird one, but I'm talking mostly super flex. I doubt there's too many buyers in redraft leagues, but my rookie sell is Jackson Dart. I love the player a lot. I think he's going to be interesting, but who knows how long that's going to take to materialize. And do you really want to sit on your hands with a player, a Brian Dable hand-selected rookie quarterback when Russell Wilson and Jameis Winston are both standing between him and the starting job? I think this is more of a future sell. This is more of a maybe sell him on the promise that he's the future Josh Allen, which obviously he's not. But maybe he can be the next Bo Nix. But the difference is Bo Nix didn't have a couple boulders in his way from that starting job the way the Jackson Dart does. And I'm not happy about this. I like Dart. The video of him with John Gruden where he shows him his snap count and he just claps. One of my all-time favorite. It's so funny. And Gruden
is like, you try it.
He goes, we had a dummy count. It's called purple. And Gruden's furious, bro. Gruden's just mad, bro. Great football guy.
He said he liked him though. Gruden did say he liked him.
How can you not? He's got a nice little mullet. He's handsome.
He reminds me of you, man.
Yeah,
beautiful.
Wow. That's not as good as Darts, but I sure can't clap like him. Ladies and gentlemen, that's going to do it for the Legit Football NFL Fantasy Football Hour. We got another one coming up soon. We're going to have to maybe integrate some real football in next week's show because we got a little carried away with our excellent fantasy discussion. We got 1/4 of 2 dynasty leagues here. Jimmy, and Adrian. We're actually, and if you include Anthony, we got 1/3 of 2 dynasty leagues. Joe Crack's got me feeling nicey. And ladies and gentlemen, Adrian, you got anything you want to say to the great people before we sign off for the week?
I do not. I'd happy buying and selling. I hope, I finished off if I recall right, I finished off the last episode. I said I do not, and then went and proceeded to say things. What the hell do I know? But just do it all. Do everything we've said, and I'm telling you, you're winning your leagues. Every single thing.
Yeah.
And if you are in a league with us, pay no attention to what we've said. Make trades against what we've told.
Pay attention just to what Adrian said.
My opinion changes daily.
Stephon Diggs is coming your way for a second, a high second.
And Jimmy Ray, anything you want to say to the good people before you sign off?
Pacers in 6.
Oh,
Yeah, we all
is
know
that
it's
to the
Knicks
people
in 7,
or
bro.
is that to?
Yeah, we all know it's Knicks in 7, bro. All right, the extremely likable Tyrese
I hope
Halliburton.
not.
Adrian. Ladies and gentlemen, my name is
Thank you,
Kevin
Adrian.
Phillip Fox. His name is Adrian Revito. His name is Jamie Ray. Our producer's name is Anthony Wayner. Subscribe to Legit Football if you haven't already. LegitFootball.com, free daily newsletter. Ladies and gentlemen, we are out.